Blog Talk Radio.
Hi everyone, this is Camille from sunny California, and you're listening to the Coffee Chat with Camille show, which is a podcast series that interviews various guests about real-life topics for people who love to learn. Hey everybody, welcome to Coffee Chat with Camille. We have, and also a happy Friday. Our title of our show today is Voting, and author of Alphabet, Jennifer Manocherian. Alphabet is Jennifer's first novel. She put much of her personal and professional life experience into writing it. Having been a family therapist, divorce mediator, Broadway and Off-Broadway producer, musical book writer, screenwriter and producer, and screenwriting teacher. She co-wrote and produced the films Family Blues and Boundary Waters in production, as well as wrote the book of 2 musicals that are streaming online. Mary Harry is a full-length musical, and Cockroaches Cologne, a short musical. She is a proud board member of the New York Stage and Film, the Peace Studio, and 18 by Vote. She is married with 5 children and many grandchildren. Great source material. For you, the audience, you can go to her personal website that has info on it about the book, her bio, and other links to other things. She is done. It go right to Jennifer Manocherian, ManoCherian.net, and it'll be in our show notes, and also you'll be able to find a copy of the show at coffeechatwithcamille.com. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and welcome Jennifer into the studio. Hello, hi, Jennifer,
hi.
welcome.
Camille, can you hear? I'm a little confused about how to get on this properly, but we're good, right?
Excellent. Yes, I can.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Well, you can be my publicist anytime. Thank you for that introduction with all that information. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome, and thank you so much for being here. So happy
my
to
pleasure.
have you, and to also share you with our audience so they can get to know more about you. So we're going to go ahead and start the interview. One of the things I'd like to do is to give you the floor about voting, because when you wrote me, you did write a little bit about, you wanted to talk about voting, and then we can go into your book, if that's okay.
Of course, it's your program, whatever. Listen, I love to vote about voting, and in fact, this afternoon we had a board meeting, and actually, it's really, when I am not exactly a spring chicken, and when I was young, one of the things I looked forward to was first of all, I guess, riding my bike, then getting my driver's license, and then being able to vote. I mean, it was like a big deal. And unfortunately, our not just young people, but we've had such a mess going on that so many people are so alienated. And the only way we really have any power is through our vote. And even though, you think it's one vote, one voice, there are elections, particularly in communities, but there are elections that come down to one vote. I mean, people's vote matters, and it also matters to be engaged and to care. There are so many issues today that are critical to young people, and our nonprofit 18byvote.org, and it's the number 18, not spelled out. But our aim is nonpartisan. I mean, I don't think as a nonprofit you can be partisan. But we don't, that's not our aim. It's just to get people engaged in being part of our democracy and voting about issues. There's a lot of issues that really matter. We've got a lot, particularly affect young people, and in fact, a lot of my interest in this has to do not with me, because it's not going to affect me, but a lot of them affect my children and my grandchildren. there's the air we breathe. I'm trying to sound nonpartisan. So if I tip my hat, please warn me and tell me. But the issues really, there's so many issues that affect young people today that they have to care. And the only way they can do anything about it is by voting and registering to vote. Not just registering, because registering is only step one. If you register but you don't vote, and that's for a lot of older people too, you're wasting your vote. You're losing your voice. So no matter how much you complain, if you're not doing anything about it, then you're part of the problem.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much for that, because I think we need to be reminded about how important our vote is, and
democracy depends upon citizens who want to be part of the process.
Absolutely, I agree. Thank you so very much. And
you're welcome.
Yes. We're going to move on to what inspired you to write this book?
Well, have you seen the jacket for the book or anything about it? Do you know anything about my book?
Well, I just know what I have in my notes, but I'd like you to just please let the audience know. Please.
No, I was just curious if you'd seen anything about it. Well, the book I've had a number of, I think of my life in a number of chapters in different careers, and I've been theater producer, I've been a family producer, all the different things I've done. I've been a screenwriter. Everything kind of culminated for me. Let's put it this way. I always think in terms of stories. If I'm sitting in a restaurant and I hear people at a nearby table talking, having an argument or something, I've already got a play I'm starting in my head, because I'm always, my head is always filled with ideas about stories and people and characters, and I had never thought that I had the ability to write in a narrative form. Screenwriting is fairly, when I say easy, it's not easy to write a good screenplay, but writing dialogue comes to me naturally. And creating characters comes to me naturally from all my different life experiences. But writing a narrative that has to be a minimum of 60,000 words, in my wildest dreams, I never thought I could do it. But it all started with and in order to kind of test the water, many years ago, a friend of mine who's a writer said to me, "Why don't you join a writing group I have? And we're just do short stories. See how that form fits you." And I right away I plunged into it, and I really enjoyed it. But again, I thought, okay, if I can write 10,000 words, I'm going to give myself a medal of some sort. I honestly didn't think I could do it. But I had a group of stories that I've been writing, and I had every year, a group of us have a writing retreat together where we just go away for a week and write, or we're either writing, or we're talking writing, or we're giving prompts, or we're sharing our work, and we share our work a lot. And through that process, I started to come up with the idea of linking different stories that I had into a whole. And again, it was just kind of an idea. I didn't have the time for it because I'm doing a lot of other things. And then COVID came around. And so it never occurred to me I'd be sitting at home for almost 3 years, but my office closed in New York City, and I was home, and the longer it became, the clearer it was that I had a gift of time that I would have never had ordinarily. And I just started piecing this thing together, and so that's kind of the origin. It was a lot of work, and I love doing it. It's something I'm now working on a second novel. I really kind of, I've got the bug.
Okay, thank you so much. And then did your former careers help or hinder the process?
Well, the answer to that is both. They certainly helped in terms of my understanding characters and motivation and character arcs and structure. All of those, whatever the elements are, like in a screenplay, for example, you also have to have a plot where you have characters who go from A to Z, that type of thing, and sub-characters. And certainly as a therapist, and more than anything, just as a family member, my understanding of people definitely served me well. But to the extent I was hindered is what was hardest for me was in a screenplay. You can set the scene. You can say, they entered the living room, which was very posh or something. That's as much as you need to do, because you're going to have somebody who's a set designer who's going to design that set. If you give them, minimal information, they will know how to create that. A period, let's say period 1970s room. They know what to do. In writing a novel, I have to fill all that in. I have to help the readers see where we are. And that was the hardest challenge that I had. And it's very easy to me to kind of, in my earlier drafts, and if people said to me it reads like a play or it reads like a movie, I realized I had more work to do to kind of help bring it into the form of a novel.
Thank you. How long did it take to write?
Well, it was the bits and pieces, but when I gathered them all together, it was like a couple of years. But I had writer friends who read a couple of drafts and gave me notes. I mean, and I don't think any work that's done is ever just one person sitting in front of their computer. You need a lot of input to give you any perspective. And then when I was finished and I felt that it was ready as it was going to be, or that I could do at that moment, I sent it to a developmental editor who was amazing. And she gave me very, very good notes that were challenging. But by the time I had done all of that, I really kind of whipped it into shape. So I would say, all told, it was a couple of years. And because I'm a senior citizen, and I knew, because I work with writers, how long it can take to get a book, first to find an agent, and then to find an agent may then want you to make more changes, and then you get if they get a publisher. Agents that don't always get publishers. And then if you get a publisher, the publisher may want more changes, and then when you have a publication date, it may be, one of my friends, it was 3 years hence. I knew I just didn't want to wait that period of time. So I made a decision to have it done through a hybrid publisher, which is different from totally, like a Kindle or an Amazon, one of these self-publishing where you have very little resources other than what you send to them. I worked with a hybrid publisher, which helped me create the artwork and the marketing and, everything. They've done everything a normal publisher, I don't know what the word is, but for a more traditional publisher would have done, except that I have to pay a fee rather than them paying you. But it was very helpful to me.
Yes. Wonderful, wonderful. And then how did being a screenwriter impact writing a novel?
Well, again, it was the same question of relying. I didn't have a camera to do a lot of the work for me. With a screenplay, I like to give an example of a film that I think was, at least for me, a good teaching tool, because so much of it, it was very well crafted film. It's called The Confirmation. Clive Owen is in it. But in that film, before you've even seen the character, it begins in the dark where you hear a car trying to start and it's an engine that isn't starting. So if you're a film goer, you know already that somebody's kind of having a problem. It's not like you're hearing a racing screen, a racing car going and somebody's like at the top of their life. You know somebody's struggling. And then slowly you get to this beat-up truck in a little town with Clive Owen sitting there. He hasn't shaved and really frustrated. His beat-up truck won't start. The amount of what that's done for somebody who's watching it, if you're writing, as a novelist, if you want to write that scene, it might be a chapter before you get to that. If you know what I mean, it's like it's so economical. Whereas you've got to, you as a novel writer, you have to show that scene. You have to find a way to show that scene to your reader, and it's very different. And you also have to in a screenwriting or in a film. Let's not even just say screenwriting, but in a film, you cast. If it says, let's say, a woman in her 30s. Well, if you cast, a big star who's, at the top of her game, if it's a love story, how it's going to end. Let's put it that way, and quite a bit about that person just by seeing that character. Whereas if you take somebody who's, there are actors like Charlize Theron who's really kind of made herself as unattractive as she can, and it's a different kind of character. But the minute you see that, you know a lot about them. But in a book, you have to create that character from the page, and it's not that you have to do it by. You can't just do it by describing them, because that tells you maybe what they look like or the choices they make. It tells you something about them. But you have to get into their soul, into who they are, kind of their psyche, and find ways of saying that without being direct about it. Indirect ways you do it. And it's a very different process, and it's hard. But I love that kind of a challenge.
Yes, thank you. And then why did you choose to use a hybrid publisher?
Well, as I said before, I chose to do it more than anything because of my age. Because I can say two reasons. One is because of my age, because I don't have forever to find the agent and then to find the publisher. I mean, definitely it would have been for me, I would have felt more legitimized doing it that way. But I also didn't feel like I could wait that long, because it could be years. And I'm an impatient person, and I'm also not young. And I also wanted control, because I've had friends of mine have had books, and they haven't had the kind of control that I wanted to have over what the cover looked like and what the title was. Because particularly having been in theater, where you have to sell a show, very often, of course, your cast can help sell it. If you have Hugh Jackman, you don't have any problems. But where you have to sell it based on the image that you're creating, and I have a very strong feeling about titles and about your artwork is selling it. And since nobody's ever heard of me as a writer, I felt that I had to have a very strong title and a very strong cover, and I didn't feel I would have that, or at least I wouldn't have had the ability to control it the way I did in a hybrid book. And so that's why I chose it. If I were 60, I would have definitely waited to find the agent and done I would have done it differently, probably. But that's a hypothetical. I don't know what would have happened. But I just am very, very much. One of the shows that I was involved with, and is still running around the country, and it's had many, many years of being successful, is Stomp. And Stomp to me is like the ultimate. It has a title that's one word, and the word almost describes what it is. And then it has an image of somebody doing something physical. And that to me is like the ultimate in how you can sell something.
Thank you. And then we're going to make this probably the last question. Is any part of the book based on real people?
Well, that's another yes and no answer, because whatever anybody writes is writing from their perspective and their knowledge of people and their knowledge. So in a way, when I began, in a sense, I would say some things about my mother died at 95, and she was in a wheelchair. She was not Bette. It wasn't really based on her, but she had quality. It wasn't in terms of the events in her life based on her, but in terms of her personality, that strong personality, that kind of very determined kind of like militantly self-sufficient person was very much my mother. And there were events. Some things were based on real events, but it wasn't, I mean, for example, there was a scene where I have an old man who falls and goes to the hospital, into the emergency room. And I wrote that scene based on something that happened to my father. Now, there was nothing about the character I was writing about that was my father. But that whole feeling, it was like taking the feelings of going to the hospital with somebody like that and seeing them in the emergency room and, you know, having code blues and stuff. It was very emotional for me, and that was based on something I had experienced, but it wasn't about my father, if that makes it clear. So,
I'm sorry.
But my story is told. There's like 8 different characters. It's all told from the point of view of different characters, and so if I think about how I created the 8 of them, each of them are probably a little bitten part of me, or people that I know, but they have to all be quite different. So it's not an autobiographical novel, but people may read things into it. I don't know. They're welcome to. I don't mind, but it's not. It isn't. If I wanted to do that, I'd have to do a real memoir, which I'm not planning to do.
Okay. Thank you so much.
My children can write about me. I'll leave it to them.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so very much for being here. And then I just want to, yes, well, you're welcome. And then I just like to know for our audience, what is your favorite coffee and or hot beverage?
Well, I'm not allowed to give you brands, but if there's certain coffee shops if I go into, like a big brand that starts with an S, and I get a skinny caffeine latte, vanilla cafe latte, that'll make me very happy. Wonderful. And I like it hot.
And you like it hot?
I do.
Yeah,
I do. You should have as a guest. Jerry Seinfeld, who does his coffee linked show.
Oh, does he?
Do you know about it?
No, I didn't. Yeah. I'll check it out. Yeah,
Jerry Seinfeld has a show of comedians. It's Comedians with Coffee. I don't know if that's on. I think it's on one of the cable channels. But he goes out with different comedians and at this point maybe other people too. And he picks them up in one of his vintage cars, and he takes them to some kind of a coffee place.
Yes,
and they have beautiful.
Yeah,
they have wonderful shots of the cappuccino maker making foam, and it's a really good little but little series that I enjoy.
It sure is. Yeah, it's excellent. Yes, I forgot about that. But thank you so much for us.
You have to invite him on your show.
Okay, I'm gonna try. I don't have any celebs yet like that,
Well,
but
somebody
I
can
have
reach
a
out
long
to
list.
him.
Okay.
Yeah, you should reach out to him because that would be fun.
Okay. It sure would be. Yeah, I'll see. Wow, I didn't even think about that. But thank you, Jennifer. And then also, could you please let our audience know what your social media handles are?
Yes. Well, I have an Instagram account, which is just my name, Jennifer Manocherian, one word. It's Jennifer is spelled like the way people spelled it in the old days. JenniferManocherian. That's it, Jennifer Manocherian. That's on Instagram. Oh my God, I don't. On Facebook, I think I'm also as Jennifer Manocherian, and I'm on LinkedIn. And
Facebook,
I probably have a Twitter account that I don't use, but
okay.
I am kind of promoting the show through social media. And if you have time for one more plug I'd like to add, if you don't, do you have time for one thing? There's
Absolutely.
a nonprofit. I'm on the board of another nonprofit that is not about voting, but it's called the peacestudio.org. Just the way it sounds, and the mission is to support artists of all types of media who give messages of hope peace in kind of the broadest sense of the world within their communities, in order to help make this kind of a kinder, gentler world. And that's kind of tied in with my care for the future, for my children and my grandchildren, that we find a way to make our world kind of a happier, kind of less violent, angry world.
Oh,
and they have wonderful. If anybody goes onto their website, they have a lot of different narrative stories and things like that might be inspirational to people. And it's the last, I don't know what period of my life, but I want to leave some kind of hope for a better world in the future, because the world has kind of really become very crazy right now.
Yeah.
And I can only hope that we're heading towards a more peaceful world in every sense of the word.
Yes. Yes, I see it here, the Peace Studio. Did you want me to, is it okay if I put it in the description, in your description?
Yeah, I would love that. Yes, I hate to be on a soapbox, but I really feel so strongly about these issues. I care about the future.
Thank you so much. So I will put these in the show note. It's called the peacestudio.org. It's actually the website that you all can go to. Okay. Mm-hmm. And Jennifer, was there anything else you wanted to mention while you're on the air?
No, but I just want to thank you, Camille, for your show, I love your name.
Thank you, Jennifer.
And this has been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure for me as well.
And if anybody wants to get the book, it's online at any of the websites that you can, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Bookshop, whatever. It's on plenty. And soon I will have, it's like a month and a half late, but soon there will be an Audible version for people who like audiobooks.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Excellent.
So there's a Kindle version, a paperback, and an Audible copy.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. You have you're welcome. You made this a magnificent Happy Friday. And I'm just thrilled to have had you on. And I just want to congratulate you with all of your accomplishments. You're absolutely amazing. And I'm going to say bye for now. Reach out anytime. You're always welcome to come back.
Well, I have a movie that I wrote that was produced this year that hopefully will come out next year. Maybe I'll come on for that.
Oh, please do. Anytime. I'd love to have you back.
Thank you. It would be my pleasure. All right. Thanks, Camille. Bye-bye.
Right, thank you. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, everybody. That was the magnificent Jennifer Manocherian. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and add in the show notes here for you guys to please go to the second website, and it's called the Peace Studio. Okay, the Peace Studio. I'm putting it in right now, and then I will put in the link for you all, and it's the Peace Studio.org. Okay, the peacestudio.org. All right, so we got to get back to a peaceful place. I would agree with that 1,000%. I'm going to find the hyperlink for it because it's not lighting up. So when you click on it, you all can go directly to the page. So I will edit that in the show notes, okay? And then what I do want to do is read about Jennifer's book, okay? It's called, what did I say, Alphabet? Yeah, Bette, like Bette Davis, but the actress Bette Davis. I don't know if a lot of you know her, but phenomenal actress. Bette, okay, is the second part. So it's Alphabet by Jennifer Manocherian. Bette Gardner is a 95-year-old widow who accepts one morning and decides to give a dinner party that night for her small family, staff, 2 neighbors, and a medium. And no one knows why. This story takes place over the course of a day and is told through the multiple points of view of Bette's guest, switching back and forth between them as we learn about their motivations, dreams, hopes, and fears. These various storylines converge at the dinner table, where the coming together of different personalities, each with their own tensions and pain points, erupts into epiphanies, resolutions, and new beginnings before the final act of the evening Bette has planned. Alphabet is more than the story of a particular family's history, aside from recounting how the characters navigate the daily mundanities of urban life. It also dwells on their larger existential anxieties and the impact of the holes and abscesses that deceased and displaced loved ones leave behind. Okay, so please check it out. I'm already totally intrigued. And it's nothing more, I think it's nothing better than to have the author on, which we did. Jennifer is just, I swear, she's absolutely amazing. I mean, she's done so much and continues. And I love that she's asking us all to take our voting rights seriously, to get out and vote. And I think we're coming up on voting time, too. So I just want to thank her again. Thank you all very much for listening to Coffee Chat with Camille. You can find a copy of this episode, by the way, on any of the streaming platforms. I think they finally added us to iHeartRadio, so I'm pretty thrilled about that. Apple, Spotify. I think between Apple and Spotify, one of those two are number one. Just can't always remember which one. But again, this is voting and author of Alphabet, Jennifer Manocherian. Okay, she is an incredible person. Okay, so please read the show notes. Please buy her book, folks. And thank you again for listening to Coffee Chat with Camille. Bye for now and happy Friday.